Welcome back. Here we go. We've got a real special treat right now. This may be one of your favorite interviews with the experts so far. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting and extremely informative. Many of you may know our guest here, Dr. Stephen Aldana. He's a CEO of Wellsteps, as well as being a professor of lifestyle medicine. He got his master's at BYU, his PhD at Arizona State. He's one of the nation's foremost experts on healthy living and worksite wellness. During his 20 years of academia, Dr. Aldana authored more than 75 scientific papers and 7 books on health risk management, healthy living, and health promotion programs. Currently, as a CEO of Wellsteps and Worksite Wellness Solutions, he offers these to the nation's corporations. In the early 2000s, he was a special advisor to the Secretary of Health and Human Services. This guy's a big deal. You've seen him featured on ABC, NBC, CNN, numerous newspapers, numerous magazines across the country. He's given over 350 keynote speeches across the U.S. and on the ability to have good nutrition, regular exercise, prevent and arrest and reverse many chronic illnesses. Let you hear some of the information he's going to share with us. His book sold over 1 million copies. They're right now being used by over 4,500 companies and corporations. And when he's asked, why is he so passionate about this? Why did you join up with this today? I mean, you're squeezing this in a very hectic schedule you've got going on there. You've got your own, health concerns going on. Why are you so passionate about this? And he said, this information, this is a quote, this information will save and transform lives. He takes it seriously. He's dedicated his life's work to this. We're going to try and take this talk and wrap it around one of the parts of the book that he released, and it's 10 years of extra life. Who would want 10 years of extra quality life? And the choice is yours. We're going to answer these questions. What's caused such a decline in health? How do we stop it? He's going to carefully connect the dots between the cause and the solution to our increasing declining health, not attributing to the pandemic either. And you're going to get over 40 years of research and investigation condensed into one conversation right here. So without any further ado, let me introduce you to the great Dr. Stephen Aldana. There he is. Welcome, Dr. Aldana. I'm glad you could join us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
As far as our conversation today, we're going to go with the camera off. You had a procedure done yesterday, so we're probably in better shape, so it's less distracting if the camera stays off. You had some procedures done around the face area, right?
Yeah, unless you want to talk to Frankenstein for a while, I recommend we leave the cameras off. So.
Okay. Well, I think the audience would be forgiving either way, but we'll go like this so there's no distractions whatsoever.
Okay.
All right. And we are so excited to have you on here. I mean, you are have been one of the experts in this field forever. I mean, health and wellness is what you've dedicated your life to give us time. We just feel honored and privileged that you're even able to join us this week.
Thank you.
What we want to talk about is the whole conversation has been on I Choose Fitness, where people are taking personal responsibility for making decisions that are going to help their health. And no time in history has it been more important than right now. We're coming out of the lockdowns and the pandemic where people didn't have access to what they were used to, whether it be exercise, fitness, nutrition, even getting to some of their favorite stores were not possible. How do you think the country fared coming out of this when we look back at it now as far as health and wellness?
I think it's, for me, I look at it as kind of an opportunity to learn a few things that we didn't know about ourselves. There have been some pandemics in the past that have been way, 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 way worse than this one. So we're lucky that it was not a 60% mortality rate instead of a 1.5%. Anyway, we're lucky, but it did give a wake-up call to everybody that things can change. Things can change pretty quickly. We live in kind of a fragile world. It helps people kind of find out what's really important in their lives, what's maybe not quite so important, but is also a big source of stress because it was such a big upheaval for people. And an awful lot of people have really struggled to go through this. So I think we've learned a lot. The fact that we've been able to develop a vaccine the way we did is going to be changing hundreds of other diseases that we don't ever talk about anymore that are viral related. So that probably would not have happened without this and all the money we threw at it to get some stuff. So there's some silver linings here. There's some darker sides. Yeah, about 50 to 60% of people said they gained weight over this last year. There's been a lot of psychological, implications and mental health problems. And I know suicides have been much higher. It's just been a wake-up call, but it's good for us to maybe reset and realize that this is really the world we live in, is the one we're in now. I mean, this stuff happens and we haven't had it for so long. We have forgotten what it's like.
Yeah, and your conversations on this topic have been around way before the pandemic. Is really just how society has kind of steered us in the wrong direction, where our health is at the bottom of the priority list. We're making the wrong choices as time goes on. And now you take the pandemic and add it to that mix. Would you say we're in a health crisis right now, or just a little bit of a concern that we need to look at?
I have done nothing but this my entire career. I never really changed around a lot right through graduate school. And I've done, a lot of time in academia. And I've been studying this and reporting on this and researching our health. And I'm talking about chronic diseases, obesity, type 2 diabetes, diseases caused by not moving around and being active. And I'd like to say that things have gotten a little better during that 30-year period where I and so many others like me have been working, but I don't see a lot of progress. In fact, what I like to say is if it weren't for the gyms and for the wellness programs and a few progressive doctors, it would probably be way worse than it is right now. So it's bad. It's still the worst it's ever been. It's going to continue because the factors that are driving us in our health haven't gone away. If anything, they've gotten worse. And I consider those factors to be what I call kind of the bad side effect, or the dark side of capitalism, is kind of what brings us into this culture now where we do things that are not very conducive to good health.
Yeah, and you talk about the kind of the three basics. Like in the I Choose Fitness program, we say exercise, nutrition, and mindset. And yours has always been move more and eat healthier and pay attention to your attitude, and watch what your dominating thoughts are. So you're speaking on the same thing year after year after year, and now it comes down to, like, we're emotional eating during the pandemic, we're grabbing the wrong things, the food industry isn't helping. All the commercials are great commercials for junk food, right? You don't see the healthy eating commercials out there. And is that what you mean by it's driven by capitalism?
Well, there's two things, and we can go back a little bit further than that. The first one is that you and I are descendants of some great, we can go back 100,000 years. So the body that I have and the body that you have, the body that everybody has, is really not our own. We receive this as a gift from our parents. And it is a culmination of a couple 100,000 years of evolution and development around an environment that it was designed to be optimal. So we have stuff in this body that was designed around a world that required a lot of physical activity and foods close to their natural form. That's what we have. That's our body. In fact, there's some remnants of stuff in this body that are a throwback to that time. And I don't know exactly how they played out, but we all have canine teeth on the side of our mouth. We have these sharp pointed teeth. They look an awful lot like fangs. Yeah. Men, unbeknownst to what we might be willing to admit, we still have nipples. We don't know what that's all about, but that's a cast off from a very, very different ancient time. We all have a little tailbone that curls around like a little tail. There's a whole bunch of anatomical stuff in here that says, oh, wait a minute, this body is really, really old. And during that hundreds of thousands of years, we lived in a way that was optimal for that body. Well, today, we don't have that environment anymore. The need for physical activity has dropped precipitously. Our diets have changed dramatically. And now we are suffering from what I call diseases of maladaptation. We haven't adapted to this new environment. It's going to take, centuries for our bodies to adapt. So we've got an old body in a brand new environment, and it's creating problems because it's not the same environment it used to be. That, combined with the fact that our food that we consume and our environment has changed dramatically. So opportunities for physical activity, types of diets that we have, those things didn't exist for a couple 100,000 years. And now, very, very ancient body in a brand new environment, we're in trouble.
Mm. And we have speakers from different industries on this summit, the medical industry, the fitness industry, the food industry, nutrition industry, and then folks like yourself from the academia world, where you guys do you believe that they can all come together for a common cause and start working together on better solutions for people?
The altruistic side of me, the positive side of me would like to think so. And I was pretty optimistic about things, and I'm not a pessimist at all. I'm just saying the reality of it is the forces that are driving our environment and culture now are in many ways in opposition to our desires to be healthy. And as long as those forces are beating against each other, it's not going to change a lot. And by that, I mean, we have an amazingly good medical model that is designed to treat disease.
Right.
And it does a fantastic job of treating disease. It makes an enormous amount of money treating disease. The problem with what we have now is we don't do anything in the prevention side because there's no money. There's not much money outside of gyms and wellness programs and some nutrition things. It's not like the medical model. So from a capitalistic point of view, everything is on the disease side. There's just a pittance of money on the prevention side. By prevention, I mean encouraging, helping, enabling people to eat a healthy diet, to be regularly active and to work out on a regular basis, to keep that body, to not smoke and abuse alcohol. There's not much money on that side to do it. So those forces alone drive this model in a different direction. And that's not to mention the food side. The money is in fast, quick, delicious, inexpensive, high fat, high sugar, high salt. That's where the money is, because that's where our ancient taste buds want to go.
Right.
There are massive cultural platform at place here that is working against us. Not everybody, but the majority of it is, which is why our diabetes is the highest it's ever been in human history.
Right. Now, speaking of that, like we're looking at all these effects of this poor environment that we're living in here. And we're talking about prevention. I know a lot of the work that you do with your company is for corporations trying to show people how to be healthier, like in a prevention mode. Do you believe a lot of these illnesses and chronic illnesses can be reversed with the same process? Nutrition, food, exercise?
We actually mentioned three things. We mentioned the prevention, so we can stop most of these from happening in the first place. Not all. Obviously, there are some cancers that are going to slip through, but approximately 70% of strokes, heart disease, cancers, and 91% of all diabetes is lifestyle related. So the vast majority are preventable. And let's assume that it's too late to prevent and you've already got something. Well, we can arrest or stop, in many cases, things from getting worse. Type 2 diabetic, I'm newly diagnosed, I've got high blood sugar, I'm worried about it. Great. If we can get you to do some lifestyle change, we can back you out of that as long as you haven't been there too long. Once you destroy your pancreas, we're not going to arrest anything. The damage is done. So we have prevention up front, keep it from ever happening in the first place. We've got arrest, keep it from getting worse. And then in some cases, we have reversal, where we have these disease processes that are in place. And with a healthy lifestyle, regular activity, a good diet, we can reverse the damage that's been done. We see that with heart disease. We see that with heart disease the most. Cancer, once it's spread and it's on its way, all the healthy living in the world is going to do nothing to stop that. It's a different pathway. It's on its way. Diabetes in the beginning, definitely we can reverse it. So it's three things that a good lifestyle can do. It is prevent diseases from occurring. It can arrest them if they've already started, and it can reverse some of those in some cases. Now that's the disease model of all of this that I'm just, kind of where my specialty lies. But I like to ask people, well, why do you exercise? Why do you go to the gym? Why do you work out for an hour a day? And if you talk to people who do this a lot, they will tell you the same answer. And that is, they will say, I like the way it makes me feel. I like the feeling I get during and after my exercise bouts. I like the way it makes me feel. I don't know anybody, or very few, who are going over there, man, I just want to prevent colon cancer. That's why I'm doing these squat thrusts. And that's why I'm really doing this routine, because I'm really, really working hard to prevent Alzheimer's disease. Not really. We don't usually think of it in that way. We do it because we like the way it makes us feel. And by the way, there's these amazing side effects at the side that help with all these major diseases that are a huge factor. So that's the way the world really looks to me.
That's incredible. I don't think, out of all the speakers we talked to, I don't think anybody broke it down like that. But that is so true, that the benefit is the add-on. Like, oh, by the way, I'll live longer, I'll be healthier, and I'll prevent diseases. But I'm in here because I feel better. And what creates that good feeling, Dr. Aldana? What happens, like when I go in there and I have a really good workout, I leave that. I mean, sometimes I feel like pumping my arms on the way back to the car because I just feel so good about myself. What is that that's going on inside me?
Yeah, you're pumping your arms because you're high. You're high on some biochemicals, endorphins. There's a little bit of that are released. We call it the runner's high. I think anybody who works out on a regular basis feels that. They feel youthful and energetic. And in a certain sense, biochemically, you're a little bit high from this experience. But there's more to it than that, because that high will drop off and you get back to your normal level again. But then the day after, or that afternoon, you feel like your body is it's not stiff and sore. You've done something today. You feel better sitting. You sleep better. Your stress is reduced. Your temper and your anger is probably dwindled a little bit. And maybe even the next day you might have what I call the little bit of soreness. That light feel good soreness. That you actually you learn to like that feeling. It's not like I'm so sore I can't move. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just on the day-to-day. I've been active. I'm a little sore. I feel good. Those are the benefits that come from the I feel good. It's muscular, it's joint, it's stress, it's endorphins, it's happiness, it's relaxation, it's better sleep. All those things kind of come into play.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think as you're describing that, I'm picturing the opposite of that is what happens before I cleaned up my diet. I mean, I started gaining weight. My metabolism was shutting off. I felt lethargic. I would get sleepy in the afternoon where I'm almost passing out on my desk. And that's because I was eating all the wrong things. So even if I was still working out, I'm undoing that with a poor diet. Like, you see that as how they can fit together or go against each other?
When we look at the science that describes how our diet affects our body in short-term periods, it isn't as clear as we might think it is. For example, I ate a donut last night and I'm really sleepy today. Typically, those things are not related. Your body's going to process it like everything else. You're on your way. But long-term, yeah, things start to happen. One of the easy one is weight gain, and then it's high blood sugars, and then we have depositions of plaques in our hearts, and there are a lot of long-term, but short-term, unless you're an athlete and you're having a horrible diet, you may never know it. You may never know that the diet is really causing you. You might not feel it at all. In fact, sometimes having a really healthy diet maybe doesn't digest as well. Maybe salads don't go down as good. Maybe it needs to be refined grains or not refined grains, but whole grains. So it's not as clear that I ate this, therefore I feel sluggish, I'm tired. Well, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You've been working all day and it's hot. Everybody feels tired, regardless of what they've been eating at that point in time. But part of that feeling clean and knowing that I've eaten food in its natural form certainly has a big psychological effect, and it has a big effect on your physiology. That's the food that this ancient body was designed to be consuming in the first place. So if you're going to optimize it, then that's the way to do it. So,
and could you clarify that? Like, what do you mean by eating food that is in its original physical
close
form?
to its natural form? So we could take, for example, an orange. I have an orange. Versus orange juice, which has stripped out most of the pulp and the fiber and everything else. That orange has other things in it that the orange juice does not. So the orange juice is one step, and there's nothing wrong with orange juice if you have a small cup. It's no big deal. But then we have orange flavored gummy bears. But there's a hint of orange in there. And the orange flavored gummy bears are mostly sugar and glucose and some other chemicals and gelatins and a hint of orange flavor. Well, the gummy bears are far from their natural form. So you can do that with every food. You can say, well, let's eat whole grains. For example, there's a breakfast cereal called Zoom. It's basically crushed wheat.
Okay.
It's a hot cereal. I like to have it with pecans and some raisins in the morning. Well, that's crushed wheat versus red licorice, which is also highly, highly, highly crushed wheat. So on one end, I have wheat, the whole kernel that's crushed. That's pretty darn close to its natural form. On the other hand, I have red licorice, which is really, really far removed from its natural form. Food close to its natural form gets us kind of where we need to be on everything, whether it's vegetables or fruits or grains. It's as close to the natural form as we can get. It's close to where our ancient body used to consume these foods.
Now, how about the medical industry? Like, why don't we hear that from our doctors? Like, everyone kind of trusts their family doctor to go to their physician for the regular checkups, but we don't hear a lot about that, you know, from most doctors, that is. There's some really, really tuned in doctors that, you know, but they're not, it's not embraced the same way it is, you know, in other communities.
It's not, because it's not taught in medical school. That's the number one reason. Again, the medical model is a disease treatment model. Now, the DOs, the doctors of osteopathic medicine, they do a much, much better job than the MDs here. But for the most part, it's about disease and it's about disease treatment. And to the doctor's credit, when I come in with high blood pressure and we're having a discussion, the very first thing that is recommended treatment for high blood pressure is called TLC, therapeutic lifestyle change. It's about dietary modification to the CHIP diet, regular physical activity, reduction of sodium and alcohol. That's step one, is TLC. And if you've done TLC and you still have high blood pressure, now we start down with medication number one. But here's the reality of it. Even though the guidelines are correct and the physicians know whether it's for blood sugar, diabetes, cholesterol, heart, blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar, TLC is still on the top of that list. They know that their patients are probably unlikely to change behaviors because they've probably tried a few times. Carl, if you don't stop changing, you're going to be dead. I can tell you, I know where this is going. Carl still won't change because it's too hard, or he lives in an environment where the food is too hard to acquire. So physicians know this, but they also know that for most people, they will not succeed at long-term behavior change because the pressures to do otherwise are too great. So they go straight to a medication. And we as patients, when we go to the doctor, we expect the doctor to put something into my body or take something out of my body. Give me a pill, fix it, do something. If you're just going to talk to me, I feel like I'm getting ripped off. Don't talk to me, doc, do something to me. We have this mentality that they have to do something, and doctors feel the pressure to do something, so they prescribe.
Yeah, and it almost sounds so simple that it would be ridiculous, but maybe they, as they're prescribing that, write up a prescription for the type of diet change that they're asking you to make at that point, or, you know, move more, exercise, join a gym, walk, join a walking club, anything to get your activity levels up. Because you said earlier that 70% of all deaths occur from lack of physical activity, poor diet, or tobacco. Those are the three main causes of death in this country.
Those are the three causes of the main types of death that we have. And 70% of those are preventable by making those lifestyle changes. The doctors, they know that. But when a patient comes, if I'm wanting to work on my blood pressure or work on my diet, on my weight, if the doctor can talk to me, give me a pamphlet, do some things, I go right back out of the world and there's Burger King right across the street.
Right.
And then the game's on tonight. So I'm really not going to go work in the garden, or I'm not going to take my dog out for a walk or go meet the guys and go bike. There's other things competing for my time. There's labor-saving devices. You know, heck, thanks, doc. Thanks for that input. Oh, by the way, I bought a new e-bike, so I don't have to pedal much anymore.
Right.
Awesome. Way to go. You know, you should get rid of that e-bike and you should pedal that dang thing.
Yeah.
So as soon as I walk out of that office, I'm inundated with this massive culture to do just the opposite.
So you've focused on, you know, bringing information to people, hoping to kind of instigate behavioral change. And I know your company Wellsteps is involved with actually giving people those apps and the devices that they need, or actually the guidance that they needed through challenges and baby steps. Like, describe that a little bit. How does that help us change our behavior?
Well, we know how to change behavior. We know the recipe. We call it the secret sauce. But even with the best behavior change science out there, it's really hard to change behaviors. Think New Year's resolution. Next year, I'm gonna fill in the blank. And you did really good for the first 2 weeks, and then you got sick, and then you had a big bunch of work to do at your job, and then you went back and you're back on your way. And that's the majority of cases. In fact, let me just briefly, people who have had a heart attack and survived will go get a treatment. They'll either get a bypass or a stent or whatever, and then they'll go to cardiac rehab. Cardiac rehab is exercise and nutrition and stress and really working hard to prevent you from ever having to come back here. And you would think that people who had a heart attack and survived would be really motivated to do something about it. In fact, the first sign that something's wrong for half of all heart attacks is sudden death. The first sign that anything is wrong for half of all heart attacks is sudden death. That means you survived. You're in the lucky half that survived it. You're going to get a procedure. You're going to go to cardiac rehab. You would think if there was ever a group that would, man, I am going to turn over a new leaf. I'm going to repent of my terrible diet and I'm going to do really good. 6 months later, 80% of those people are back to their original behaviors.
Wow.
So behavior change is so hard. We know how to do this, and we can break it down into simple little pieces, but we still have to work with other people. Behavior change is easier when I have someone to support me. It could be a dog. It could be a neighbor. It could be a spouse. It could be someone at the gym, someone at the corner of the block waiting for me at 5 o'clock in the morning to go run. Social support is a big piece of this. Spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends, partners, children, those are all huge pieces of that. So that's just one piece of social support, and then there's the environment. How do I make it easier in my environment to be healthy? So we can do things in our environment. For example, we have the contraband rule at our home. If you bring it home, I'll eat it. So don't bring it home. We change our environment by not bringing those foods in, because you bring it home, I'm going to eat it. Right. Great. We won't bring it home. We change the environment. Or if I go to work and there's a candy machine down my hall, I either need to change the foods that are in that candy machine or I need to get rid of the candy machine. Or Susan down the hall next to me, she's got a candy bowl on her desk and it's full of chocolate. And everybody goes by and somehow that bowl magically gets emptied every week. Okay, that's environmental stuff. You can change the environment. You can work with spouses and work with others. You can set little goals along the way. You can do incentives and rewards. So we know how to do all this. So that's what we do with Wellsteps, is to plug these in the worksite setting, because worksites have a vested interest to see that their employees have healthy behaviors. They're paying for the healthcare costs, and they're paying for productivity and absenteeism and return and turnover and recruitment. So a healthy workforce is good for the bottom line. They have a reason to do this. Whereas, to be honest with you, if you and I were successful and we got everybody to really healthy, there wouldn't be near as many cardiologists. That's bad if you're a cardiologist.
It's true.
So worksites are where we're at, where we deliver these online challenges and materials to get people to change. We call it adopt and maintain healthy behaviors, because anybody can do it short term. It's adopt and maintain. Dr. Aldana, this is really hard, getting up and exercising, and I really don't like salads. How long do I have to do this? Well, how long do you want the benefits? Because when you stop, the benefits stop. And the true answer to the question is, for as long as you're alive. That's how long you have to do this.
And what about the excuses that are pre-built in people? How do you get those to quiet down? Like, when you're working with somebody or trying to coach them and guide them through this process, those voices kick in. We hear them
all the time.
Yeah.
Constantly. We need to teach people about the voices that you have. I like to call this relapse too, by the way. You're going to relapse. You're going to start this, you're going to do really well, and you're going to fail. In fact, failure is part of the process. The average person who quits smoking quit 4.5 times before they actually quit. But that's okay. That's one step closer. So the person who started a fitness program, went to the gym, got up, went day over day, and they quit, that's okay. That's part of the process. So I can pre-warn you about some of these things are going to happen. We can talk about how to overcome those. Then we can talk about, well, I don't want to go to the gym this morning, but if Bob is down at the corner waiting for you to pick him up, you're going to show up. You're not going to leave him in the rain at 6 o'clock in the morning because you just didn't feel like it. You're going to get over there. That social peer pressure are ways to overcome these kinds of things.
And the opposite stands true, I guess, too. Like if you have support at home, it's easier to keep this going. But what about the folks that they get excited about what they're learning, they want to turn over a new leaf, and then they go home and they're not getting the support, they're getting the comments and oh, you're going to do that again. Oh, you tried that in the past and it didn't work. Like, is there a way to take the negative responses you're getting around you and flip those, or you just go on anyway?
I don't know if I want to flip them. I want to recruit those people.
Right.
Hey, how you feel? I don't feel very good. Do you want to like the way you feel? And come with me. We'll start slow. Go to the gym with me. Let's just do 10 minutes. And we're going to slowly bring you into, so I don't have to go home and say, oh, a dozen donuts. Great. That's exactly what I don't need. Let's work together here. How about this week you're in charge, next week I'm in charge. And it's a gradual transition, because if you have social support, roommates, girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse, who are going to support you with this, that's probably the single biggest success predictor, is strong social support. And you can bring people with you. That's the whole idea, is to slowly bring them with you. Carefully bring them down this road to a healthy, happy life. And once you have a support system, eating becomes 10 times easier, eating healthy.
Right.
Because the two of you together, you're buying the same groceries, you're going to the same restaurants. It just becomes infinitely easier if you don't have to fight that battle. So instead of really fighting them, just say, hey, I love you. I want you around for a long time. Come with me. Let's just start small and don't hurt them. The tendency is to jump up there and let's do 16 miles, just
right.
Go here.
Looks like we lost your audio for a second.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the same way with people who join a gym too. They jump in there and they want to catch up to all that lost time, and tomorrow they're too sore to even return. So
yeah, that's exactly the same point. They just kill themselves the first day. I can't walk. I'm never going to do that again. That's counterproductive completely.
Yeah, and one of the speakers was talking about bringing this into the schools. He had done some work with the NFL's Play 60 program years ago, was helping that spread through the schools. And kids see it the same way. It's, we talk about exercise, nutrition, and mindset, but a kid is like, I want to play more. I want to eat better. And then I want to have and then I want to be happier. And it's the same thing, but on a smaller scale. Let me play more and eat better and I'll be happier. And
for the most part, it's tough. I mean, there's people got 2 or 3 jobs, low income jobs. We're living in a less than ideal neighborhood with a lot of travel time and public transit and commuting. And now I'm home with kids. And what do? I'm going to stop by at some fast food place and get in the door because I'm right. It takes planning. It takes a team approach to do this. And kids will come. I look at the way our kids have eaten, and my children and our grandchildren, and healthy food has been a part of everybody's lifestyle around here. It's just the norm. In fact, unhealthy food is abnormal around here. In fact, it's not that we're what I call militant about what we do, but I do recall a couple of Christmas times where we actually gave our kids a Christmas present. One of them was a box of sugared cereal, because we never get it. We never used to eat it. So a box of Golden Grams was under the tree as a part of their packages. And the kids loved it because they got to eat this cereal for the next couple of weeks. But that's not a food we would bring into the home on a regular basis. In fact, rarely. In fact, it was a very unusual treat to bring that home.
Right.
So we're not used to eating Wheaties and shredded wheat and whole grain Cheerios, and they didn't mind it. They didn't bother them. They just got what they're used to. So the parents have a huge control over this issue. Having been through this on the back end with the family and watching my kids go through this, I can see that they have adopted exactly the same lifestyles that we have. We get together and have a family meal. It's always a really healthy meal, and they love it. They all enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's when you mentioned, getting everyone to support you and recruiting. I love the word, just recruit the people around you into the same challenge that you have ahead of you. And if they become part of it, the environment's going to change automatically because they're now part of it. So,
Because they quickly decide that they like the way it makes them feel.
right, right.
Oh, well, how do I keep this up? Because I feel great.
Uh-huh.
I'm looking good. I'm losing weight. People have commented on how I look. I feel like I have more energy. I think I do. My clothes fit better. And I just feel alive. I feel really good. How do I keep this up? And that's when the environment comes into change. And it's easier to do if you like the way it makes you feel.
And when they go off and create their own environment, they're doing what they know. They're doing the environment they grew up with that makes them feel better.
Yeah.
But the same is true on the other side. If they're coming from an environment where everything's rush, 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 fast food, eat on the go, they bring that with them as well.
They can do that, but they got to be selective about what they're eating. You can eat out, but you got to be very, very selective about what you're eating. You got to find healthier foods. And, I always challenge people, well, find some vegetables. Where are some vegetables at this place that you can consume? So you've got to be very careful. You can still do it at rush on the go, but it's hard work.
Now, when you're doing your talks to an audience, you're in a corporation brings you in and you're talking to 500 or 600 employees, and you could probably read the room, and you could see the people that they're really into what you're saying. They want to do better. Then there's other people that they just don't believe it yet. Like, how do you break through that resistance where people are like, I don't know, that just doesn't make sense to me, because they've never heard this kind of thinking before.
Your description is correct. There's always 15% of the audience that are champions. They're on board. Everybody's nodding. I get it because I'm living the way this makes me feel. They're all on board. They're just nodding their heads. And then there's a bunch of naysayers. They're like, well, let me see. For example, one guy, it was a group of engineers I was speaking to. We were talking about how much longer you live if you're regularly active. If you have a physically active lifestyle, it ends up being about 5.6 years. He's doing the math. If I exercise 45 minutes a day for every day of the year, he says, I'm going to break even after I've exercised for 3 years. That's the 5.5 years I picked up at the end. So it's just a net loss. So he doesn't really want to go there. So it's kind of funny to me. He's doing the math, except that he forgot the whole how it makes you feel part. But yeah, mathematically, the years are about the same. And then there's this last group, about the 15% over my dead body group, is what I like to call them. I like the way I eat. I'm a heavy smoker. It's the way my family's been. My family's obese. I'm obese. I got the gene. I really don't care if I die early. It just is. If it's God's will, then it's God's will, and then it's my time. And I says, well, if that's the case, stop wearing your seatbelts and never take antibiotics, and we'll let God's will take over pretty quickly here. So,
wow, great comeback, because it comes down to that. They're holding on to what they believe is their right to kill themselves slowly. Well, it's also your right to just let it all go.
Yeah. Stop eating refrigerated food, and let's see how long you last.
Wow. Well, if that doesn't wake them up, I don't know what will.
There's a mix, and we use different behavior change approaches for each of those different categories. Some of them need to be carefully led down this path, very carefully, with really good incentives and rewards and social support and all kinds of stuff. And others, you don't even need to be there. They're going to go do their triathlon with or without you.
Right.
So we try to tailor specifically for where a person is on their readiness to change.
How many times do you see somebody that comes in reluctant, hesitant, skeptical, but they're just following everybody else because the company's doing it? And at the halfway point or 3/4 of the way through it, they're like, wow, this is great. And they start embracing it. Do you actually see those changes in the people?
All the time, which is why a lot of our challenges and campaigns are team-based, because you get the big social support component of this, where we put groups together. They can sync any device, any phone, any fitness device, gets uploaded automatically. And as a team, they're racing other teams across the United States. So we're on a map and we're talking smack to each other and we're having fun and we're meeting up in groups and going exercising. And so it becomes more than just the exercise itself. It becomes a social activity. It becomes a communication activity between people. We can do lots of things that it takes on a life of itself. So the fitness part is kind of hidden in this much larger agenda, and they're being really fit. And that's just like one piece of it all. So I'm seeing other people from the office I've never met, and we're spending time together, and we can't wait to do the next one because we had so much fun. And that's a big part of it. And I like to say, well, if you were by yourself or there weren't any incentives, would you still do it?
Mm.
And that's where you find the ones that get down to where they like the effect it has on their body, mentally, socially, physically, spiritually. Those people will do it forever and ever and ever. They're the hardcores. They're locked in. A lot of people on the bubble can go either way, so the social support can bring them in until they start to feel good themselves. Then they'll be able to do it themselves.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it really does. Like when I listen to you describe it too, it sounds like I'd love to be part of that. I mean, I always want to do better and feel better and get better. But now if I join in and it's already going on and I'm now involved in it and there's awards and the team's doing good and we're racing across the United States, I could see how you don't want that to end. You don't want to go back to the same old, trying to figure it out on your own. But like the audience that's on this call today, right now, I know there's somebody here, they're watching, they haven't been taking care of themselves for a while, they want to do something, but they're afraid, they're hesitant, they're uncertain. Maybe they're still not sure what's going to happen in the gyms these days. I mean, the gym's got a bad mark during the COVID and the lockdowns that people are afraid. Some people are still afraid of them. So they're hesitating to re-engage with this healthy lifestyle that they want so bad. What would your advice be to that person?
We are a society that expects immediate results and gratification. Like, I want it and I want it all now. I want to be super fit and healthy in as shortest amount of time as possible. And the more we try to change, the more we try to do, the higher the likelihood of failure and recidivism. We're just not going to success. So we use a principle called Kaizen. Essentially, it's a Japanese manufacturing principle, K-I-Z-E-N, where small little incremental changes over time have a big result at the end. So in terms of fitness, rather than joining a group to do an extreme level of fitness right out the gate and go crazy, I want to take a little bite, a small piece. For a certain person, that might be, I'm just going to walk around the block just once. And then tomorrow, I'm going to do it again. And what happens is if you can make that small, little, tiny change and succeed, I'm not a failure. I'm okay. I can do this. I already did this once. I can do it again. We get an emotional, psychological charge from making a success versus tried to run that 5K. My calves hurt for a month. I didn't have any fun. I don't want to do that anymore. I hate exercise. Exercise is just painful. I'm on my way. I'm out. Kaizen allows us to do these small little incremental changes. For example, I'm not sure I can do it. Great. First step one, just go to the gym and talk and look around. You don't have to lift a weight, step on a treadmill, join a class. You don't have to do anything. The goal this week is just go to the gym and look around. That's it. Just look around. And next week, go and do something small, something easy. Now, a lot of people might just jump in, but as long as we're going these small little steps, we're going to have success along the way, and it builds. And it builds until our self-confidence starts to get to a point where I can do hard things and I can stick this out. I know I'm sick today. I won't be able to make it, but tomorrow I'm there. I'm not going to drop out now. And so Kaizen is a big part of this, especially now getting back in. I'm out of shape. I've gained 15 pounds. Man, have I fallen far from the tree. I know I'm in trouble. Then we're just going to take small little steps. That's the best way to do it successfully.
That's awesome. And I've heard people talk about the same, like you just described for your example, exercise, but the same with nutrition is don't go and change your entire diet. Just go buy something healthier. Replace your French fries with a vegetable this week. Just one step. And when you do that, you'll feel better and it's easy. And you go, yeah, I could do that. And I could do another one. And over time, you'll start to look back and go, wow, I made a lot of changes this year.
I remember listening to one of these financial podcasts. In fact, it was Gordon Ramsay, who tells people how to get out of debt. He said, yeah, you could take care of the credit card at the highest interest rate. He says, but I want you to take care of the debt that's the smallest debt you have. Psychologically, it's Kaizen. Let's pay off that little credit card for $400 and then cut it up. I know you got a mortgage and a car payment and student loans and but let's just do that one little card. And there's something psychological that happens when we have that little success that one time. It's like, I can do this. I just did that. That's that impetus to get this momentum going. So it's a really vital principle that we follow in everything that we do at my company.
Yeah, that is awesome. And it's easy for everybody to embrace when you hear it laid out like that. You're sitting there thinking, I could do this. I could do that. I could do this little small step and leading me down the road to where I really want to be anyway. All right, well, let's look at the big picture then. What would the world look like if everybody moved health and wellness to the top priority instead of somewhere at the bottom?
Well, unfortunately, it would have serious side effects on some business models in the world. There is a company here, and I'm in the Utah, but I see these in California and Nevada. These guys decided to mix different flavors of soda. I think one company's called Sodalicious. There's one that's called Fizz. They're mixing different sodas to make these cocktails. It's a soda mix. And I first heard about it, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. Who would pay money for that? And I drive by these places now, and I see them all over the West. Cars are lined up at 9 o'clock in the morning for a mixture of whatever soda and whatever soda and whatever soda. It is the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's like this diabetes machine.
Yes.
And people are lined up to get that. And I'm stunned that we as a society have gone to this. Well, that's a business model that people love. The owners are making lots of money. And if I had my way, I would say a big part of the Medicaid and Medicare expenses for the states and the federal are because of diseases being treated by your product. So maybe we should have a class action lawsuit. I know that's really hard language, but if you think of the food successes that are out there and the type of foods that they are promoting, in the ideal world, those are going to be farther from what they're going to be fewer of them. Now we're talking businesses, people going out of business. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Too many people will fight. Well, it's freedom of choice. I should be able to play with dynamite if I want to play with dynamite.
Right.
Great. Knock yourself out, dude. It's just not going to happen. So what I call it islands of health. I'm not going to get everybody in my community to be healthy, but I can get some families to be really, really healthy. That they're going to create an island of health at that house. When your kids go to play at that house, there are certain foods that they don't eat. There are certain things that they do. Oh, by the way, screen time is limited. You can play video games. You're going to get 40 minutes and that's it for the day. Well, what am I going to do? You can do anything. You just can't sit in front of a screen. So we make these little islands, and there are some work sites that are beautiful islands where people are really healthy there. There are some gyms. It's an island of health. There are a few medical doctors and their practices that are islands of health. And eventually these little islands start to connect. We get this little network of interconnected, healthy islands. The whole community is probably not going to change, but this little connection network of these islands, we're doing a 5K race, and then we're going to show up at the park with all of our pets. And then we're going to have a healthy lunch buffet. And then we're going to have a celebration at this party at this house. And it's all going to be healthy food. These little islands start to connect. And that's the only way I see this happening going forward. It's not going to be a wholesale change from the state or federal government. In fact, I think they're going to be the last groups to want to make these changes, because if I have my way, it's bad for business.
Right.
Cardiologists are going to get laid off. Well, no one's ever going to let that happen. There's no way you're going to hurt these businesses with your healthy stuff that you're promoting. So it's going to be individuals, little islands that are doing this, and they will eventually connect, and there'll be more and more and more of them. Gyms are a perfect example of this. A gym is an island of health.
Yeah, and some of them do it right, and some of them don't also. Like, we know there's some gyms that, on Thursdays they give free bagels away, so you go in and work out, and then you leave with a bagel with butter on top of it. And, that might be adding more than you just worked out for, and they give bowls of candy all the time. And others are really into the, the whole holistic, where, when you're done, you're going to get an all natural smoothie drink, at the end, where it's fruits and vegetables for you. So they're really just trying to add to the experience as well. I would love to, talk to you about having challenges between these gyms and see if we can find the healthiest gym in the country. Let them go against each other, pick, 100 of their own members together and go in there and do a challenge to see who actually comes out the best.
Yeah, there's
no challenges like that.
There's a variety of ways to do it. And it doesn't have to be the healthiest. It could be the one that has the people doing the most healthy behaviors. We're exercising regularly. We're eating healthy. You know, we're getting adequate sleep. We're reducing our stress. That's an island of health right there. There's a variety of ways that we do that.
And you could track that. Like they could register their 100 of their members, whatever, and they track it through.
Track it all across time.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, we're going to put the link underneath your on your page there to your company, but I definitely want to swing by and talk to you about that, as well as maybe we could put something together and really find out who has the the healthiest eating habits, or who's turning around their physical activity the most, something like that. And that ties into the Kaizen method that you've been talking about. Like if we get a lot of people taking a few steps, all of a sudden they're going to look back and go, wow, I've come a long way in the last 6 months.
You know, I love these talks. I love working with like-minded people who have a vision of the future. And every time we have a discussion like this, some company brings 10,000 electric scooters to the sidewalk and everybody stopped walking.
Right.
So 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Right.
You know, we do really, really well. We got people moving and doing really good. And then they open up 16 more Sodalicious restaurants where people are mixing soda.
Yep. Or
we do this other thing. There's this new super fried food that's super delicious. And, it's a constant battle against this culture that is out there. And it's not going to go away.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. We have a yogurt facility, and their advertisement is how yogurt is healthier than ice cream. So come on in, make yourself your own yogurt. You put the toppings on. There's 34 different toppings that are all just pure candy. So take your yogurt, which is healthier than ice cream, and load it up with M&Ms and chewy gummies and all the other things.
Yeah. That's marketing. Welcome. God bless America.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's what we're up against too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can't tell you, Steve, how much I appreciate you stopping by and spending some time with us. With everything you've got going on, it really just shows how much of a passion and a purpose you've got going on in your life to take a pause right now and work with us today.
Let me tell you one last thing, Bob.
Sure.
People don't understand this as well, but you could say, let's say I really enjoy exercising and I get my lifestyle where I'm eating healthy and I'm avoiding tobacco. I'm just doing the right kinds of things. I'm not a marathon runner and I'm not a nutritionist, but I'm just, I'm doing the good things at home and when I work and out. And what's the outcome for me? What happens to me? And we look at that. We ask that very question using epidemiological data. And we know that those who live a healthy lifestyle live between 10 and 20 years longer than those who don't. And here's the key. It's not 15 more years of being in a nursing home with critical care and having daily care for you. It's 15 years of high quality life where you live a really good high quality life up to the very end, at which point in time the clock winds down really quickly. I mean, within a couple of days or weeks, you're dead. Mm. It's that 10 to 15 years at the end of your life where now you have some wisdom, hopefully you have some money, you have productivity, you're able to have this high quality life. In addition to exercising and eating right makes me feel good, there is a 10 to 20 year block where you're able to spend time with grandkids, travel. I'm pushing 60 and we mountain bike all over the place. And there's a few gray hairs up there mountain biking, but there's not very many. We don't see very many 60-year-olds up there on their mountain bikes because it's just too hard. I've gained too much weight. I'm out of shape. It's 10 to 20 years of high quality life. That's what's really a big payback at the end of this. When we're young, we don't think about that. You got to be 40 or older, 35 or older, but there is this big prize at the end. When people will make this a lifestyle, it's 10 to 20 years of high quality life. That's the big payback at the end.
Oh, that is awesome. And we all know people who spent the last 5 years of their life just suffering through daily aches and pains and pills, and they got a countertop full of medications, and
most people,
that's the opposite of what you just described.
Most people have really, really struggled at the end. Yeah. And diabetes is a big part of that. A lot of other conditions that don't have to happen.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, that motivates me too. That is, I do look at what the last 10 years of my life, not the next 10 years of my life. I want them to know that they're just as high quality as the rest of my life.
Yeah. And they can be if you're willing to, do some work and have some fun doing it.
Well, you are absolutely the master of breaking this down. It's a very complicated business in the complicated world that you're in, but you have the ability to break it down. So we all want what you have, you know?
Well, we all want just to have a good, well, at the end of the day, we want good health and a high quality life. That's what we all want.
That's it. Well, Dr. Aldana, again, thank you so much for spending the time with us and breaking into your schedule for us as well. We appreciate it more than we can tell you.
Great. Thanks, Bob. And it's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Is there anything that I forgot to ask you before we hang?
No, I think we're good. I think everybody has a kind of a taste for what's out there and what's available.
We're going to click over to your site too and see what we could do as far as setting up some of those challenges as well.
Okay.
Thanks again, Dr. Aldana. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.